There's a moment every older grappler knows all too well. It's Thursday or Friday night and your body is done. Your knees, your shoulders, your back are all sending the same message. We're not ready for another hard day of rolling. And that's when you start wondering if it's your age, your lack of recovery, or maybe you're just not cut out for this. Fortunately, the truth is much simpler than that. You burned the entire week down on Monday night. You redlined a cold engine, and everything after that is just damage control. You just show up night after night, grind it out, and then the next day, rinse and repeat. Look, we've talked about old man Jiu Jitsu, the invisible belt, and how to become an anti-fragile grappler. But by now, some of you are probably wondering what it takes to actually get there. And that's what we're talking about today. A specific roadmap for building capacity, increasing intensity, and pursue this art without ending up in bed rest at the end of every week. Welcome to the Alchemy of Struggle, baby. I started Jiu Jitsu over 7.5 years ago, in the same manner that many of you have. Every class was a grind fest. It was like I had rewound the clock and was back on the wrestling mats in high school, and I was determined to soak up every ounce of it. It was all about showing up, slapping hands, and going hard. But for older grapplers, that always on, always hard mode has a tremendous cost. And that's the part that no one tells you when you first start Jiu Jitsu. How you train on Monday determines how you feel the rest of the week. And what looks like a failure of your body is really just a failure of training architecture. Basically, you don't have one. You don't want to think of Jiu Jitsu as just a daily practice, but think of it more like a weekly cycle, what I call a phased ramping up. Longevity in this art is about structure, not just grit. And without it, even some of the toughest guys on the mat end up falling into inconsistency. A Jiu Jitsu phenom on Monday, sore as hell by Wednesday, and completely busted by Friday. So if going hard every day is the trap, what's the solution? That's where the 4-phase ramp up comes in. Phase 1, what I call calibration. For me, this is the first day of the training week, Monday. I've just come off a nice recovery day on Sunday and probably had one of those premium sticks at the cigar lounge. So Monday is where I scan and reboot the system. The point is to prepare your body for the week instead of just jumping right in. What this looks like for me is mostly technique drilling and a series of positional rounds. If I do live sparring, it's very few rounds, very light, and with a select group of training partners. Phase 2, the second training session of the week, what I like to call acquisition. For me, this is Wednesday. I'm still focused on technique and drilling, but now with more moderately intense positional rounds. My focus is on skill acquisition, not proving how tough I am. I'll get in a few moderate open rounds, but nothing crazy or chaotic. Instead, I'm focused more on specific problem solving, a grip sequence, a counter to the knee cut pass, or maybe I'm working on a new half guard sweep. I put myself in those positions and work those sequences over and over again. What you're really focused on in this phase is building new neural pathways while your body is fresh and capable of learning. Wednesday or midweek is where you focus on sharpening the blade, not going for the big swing. Next is phase 3, the third training day, what I like to call integration. For me, this is Friday and where I start putting it all together. The pace goes up significantly. Not reckless intensity, but just increased tempo. You're moving faster, transitioning quicker, and opening up your game and allowing it to breathe. This third training session is the stress rehearsal for the final act. And here's the final phase, training day number 4. This is the true pressure test. For me, this is the Saturday open mat session. This is controlled chaos and high intensity. Multiple rounds, back to back, without rest in between. And for me, this is where I'll get in some of those more intense, longer rounds, 10, 15, sometimes even 20 minutes. This is the deep end of the pool and the end goal for the entire week. And you earn this day by doing Monday correctly. And if you modulate it well in the early and middle part of the week, you should show up a lot sharper, stronger, and more capable on this fourth day. Honestly, it's Friday and Saturday where I feel the most lethal and where I bring my A game to be tested. This is where anti-fragility is built. You're taking all those micro stressors from earlier in the week and pushing them into one real test. But don't mistake Saturday for an all-out crazy battle. You still need to approach this intelligently. Think of this more as a systems audit. You want to see what works and what fails under real pressure so that you know what you should be working on next week. And what makes this system work is two things. Number one, it's not complicated. Number two, it's very intentional. Every day serves the next, and every week feeds into the next one. Very similar to taking modules in a college course. One builds on top of the other. And this is how older grapplers can stay dangerous and effective without completely burning out. You carefully calibrate and microdose the stress so that you're training much more efficiently. When you modulate your training week this way, everything starts to line up. And suddenly, your body feels capable again instead of feeling overwhelmed all the time. And when you do whatever you do to recover and unwind on the weekend, you feel like you've actually earned it. And you can enjoy it without everything aching. Now, I know some of you are watching this and saying, look, dude, this is something you learned after 7.5 years on the mats. You can't expect people who are new to the sport to understand this stuff. That kind of criticism can only exist in the Jiu Jitsu bubble. Of course, this isn't intuitive for beginners. That's why other sports have experienced coaches who actually teach this stuff to their athletes. You don't just show up on the first day of football and jump right into hard scrimmaging. There are processes, drills, and yes, phased ramping up. And so I've decided to apply to Jiu Jitsu what I learned long before stepping on those mats. But look, I'm not so arrogant as to believe that my way is the best way or the only way. Maybe you don't train on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday. Or maybe your intensity peaks in the middle of the week instead of at the end. But the point is simple. Have a structure, any structure, instead of just showing up night after night and winging it. That's how you'll be able to stay in the game long term and build real sustainable skills without completely breaking yourself. And if you haven't seen it already, check out the video on this channel called How to Become an Anti-Fragile Grappler. It'll be linked at the end of this video. And if any of this hit home, check out some of the free stuff in the description. Or if you want to go deeper, join the channel membership. You get early access to videos and a monthly digest of the key takeaways from that month's content. And as always, I want to thank the members, the subscribers, and all of those who comment on these videos for helping me level up this content. But remember, there are others who need this message, and they're probably in your own gems. So let's help them find it. Like, share, and subscribe. Keep up the good fight and stay safe on those mats. Peace.